Hi, here I am again. I know my videos are not coming in a certain regularity, but I also feel like they don't need to because I don't have a very huge viewership. So that's why, I take my time and wait until I really have something to talk about instead of just throwing out these videos to throw out videos because, yeah. So today I wanted to talk about the symptoms of a fallen world. What does that mean? What do I mean? So I mean, we're living in a godless society. I believe in God. I believe in Yah, the creator of the heavens and the earth. I believe in the Bible. Now, I do not call myself a Christian. I do not call myself a Hebrew Israelite as some type of religion, even though I acknowledge the lineage of which I am from. But what I want to say is I don't identify with any cult, any group, any sect. I'm not the spokesperson for anyone but myself. And I pray that Yahusha is in my speech, the Holy Spirit is in my speech, and guides everything I say, that I don't talk no nonsense. That's what I want to share with you today. So I want to share the symptoms of a godless society. So I think the majority of people do believe in something. Whether they are Christians or they're Muslims or they're Jews or they're Buddhists or they're Hindus or they believe in the universe. Everybody believes in something. Yet the world looks the way the world does. So all these different gods that they believe in, I know some believe in the whole one God thing, but all these different gods apparently don't tell them how to do good, how to be good, how to do right, how to be blessed and how to bless others with your actions, with your words, with your presence, with prayers. That doesn't seem to be a thing. The focus is very much on many other things, and whatever you believe in is kind of like on the back burner. They kind of just use their spirituality to get what they want, and don't really spend much time working on their character, working on their personality. It's a lot about, how can I be great? How can I achieve what I want to achieve? It's all about me, 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 and never about, maybe did I do wrong? Do I need to repent? Do I need to apologize? Do I need to adjust something? Do I need to be humble? Do I need to observe? That is somehow not so often part of people's religion, right? So therefore, I say, of course, biblically, it's clear, but for people who are like, oh, the Bible, and there are people who still are afraid of the Bible, still with your own eyes, you can see that something is wrong with the world, right? And if all these religions were any good or being at least observed in a more righteous and honest way, I think things would definitely at least be different. So I just wrote down 6 indications that came to my mind, really just from the top of my head. Maybe there are more, very likely that there are more. I didn't spend a lot of time preparing for this video. Really, I didn't. I just had some thoughts in my head, wrote them down, and I thought I will share it because I think it's worth sharing. So my theory is that humans have the tendency to worship. We want to worship something. We don't just want to run around and believe in nothing, because even people who claim to be atheists, they believe in something. whether they believe in themselves as being God, which is, satanic, or they believe in a celebrity or in, their political party, or you believe in something. There is something that we worship. So again, I have this list, and at the bottom of the list is politics. So I think that politics is something that divides people on the basis of we worship politicians, we worship political parties, or we worship political viewpoints. So if you are a conservative and you identify first and foremost as a conservative, you will end up, oftentimes, not everyone, but majority, you will end up agreeing to every talking point that conservatives have. So if you're, for example, against, same-sex marriage, or you're against trans women in female sports, then you will also be against abortion. You will also be against immigration. You will also be pro... Are they conservatives? They're pro-Israel? A majority, and all the other points. So that is worshiping. That is worshiping your political views. Also, of course, on the left, I'm not on the left, and I'm not on the right. I don't subscribe to none of them. But on the left, if you are for trans people doing everything they want to do, then you're also for I don't know, what are lefties for? Kamala Harris? I don't know. Well, for all these things that lefties stand for. Usually, or oftentimes I see, if you're for one of the things, you're for all of the things. However, I do find that people on the right, oftentimes, if they identify as conservative, they will identify and agree to all the conservative talking points. While on the left, I feel there's more like, there's one point that you agree with, and maybe two, but once you do, you consider yourself as a liberal. And then even if you don't agree with everything the liberals do, you still see yourself as a liberal. I think conservatives are appear much more exclusive than liberals. I think that's why a lot of people consider themselves liberals, because they identify with one of the liberal talking points very strongly. And that's why they're just on that side rather than on that side. That's my experience, however. But it still becomes that one thing that you might be passionate about. Maybe it's racism. And then that becomes your God. That becomes your everything. And that to me is the sign of, or a sign, there are more, of a fallen world, a godless world. Because people fight and get into arguments and get very divisive because of their political standpoint. So, next thing, celebrities. So, celebrities, I guess, is a very obvious thing. The way even we refer to them, right? They have taken place, or they have taken the place of God and Mary in many situations and instances of life. There are many gossiping channels about celebrities, what they're doing, what is being exposed about them, what they're not doing, and when they're touring, the music they put out, which I find is very much on the back burner nowadays, what music they put out or which films they put out. I find people don't really talk much about that. People talk more about who they're with if they're in rehab, which clothes they're wearing, what clothes they're not wearing. Yeah. And then, of course, exposing the things that they do in the dark. So people take a lot of time looking at celebrities and what they're doing and being pulled and dragged by celebrities in different directions. So one example that I have in my mind right now is the whole Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl situation. I didn't watch it. I don't watch TV. I am on social media, but I'm not really drawn to a lot of these mega events like Super Bowl, Oscars, Emmys, Grammys. Like, I don't care. And then sometimes if something major happened, I will see all these videos pop up on my timeline. And I still don't care. But the whole thing felt to me, the response from a lot of people, they felt like, oh my gosh, Kendrick Lamar has single-handedly started a revolution. And I'm like, do people still even know what the word revolution means? Because he sang a song or a couple songs, I don't even know. But he performed at a show that is orchestrated by the very same people that you think he's rebelling against. Like, they're the ones who pay him. They're the ones who chose for him to perform there. They're the ones who checked out what he's going to perform and gave it a okay. So you think that he is rebelling against those people who are responsible for his bread and butter? I sometimes feel the tendency to be like, to ask like, okay, everyone, so what's up with the Kendrick Lamar revolution? Is it still intact? Is it still going on? Like, are we soon free? Or like it's on hold. Like, I'm wondering. So that is just, I mean, that's even like a mild worship. There are celebrities who are being proper worshipped, and there are many videos out there on YouTube about people worshiping Beyonce, people worshiping Taylor Swift. So I'm not even gonna go into that right now. But you get what I'm saying. So devices and social media. So people might not think, oh my gosh, social media is my God, or my phone, or the internet, or my computer is my God, but the way they behave. So worship is an action, right? Worship is not just a thought. Oh, I worship you. Like when you say, oh, I worship God, but you never do anything. You don't pray. You don't keep his feast days. You don't read the Bible. Like, you do nothing that says, I worship God, but you just say it, That doesn't count as worship. Your actions count as worship. So worship is a verb. So when the first thing you do in the morning is grab your phone, the last thing you do in the evening is put your phone down, or sometimes you can't even sleep because you're constantly scrolling on your phone. You're always on your phone when you're talking to people, when you're talking to your children, when you're, at your lunch break at work or whatever, phone. That is worshiping your phone. That is what it is. If your screen time is over 4 hours a day, an average per week, then I would say you're worshiping your phone. Like, what else are you doing 4 hours a day other than being on your phone? So that's a sign also for a godless world, that you don't know what else to do with yourself than to be on your phone. When you're bored or when you're relaxing, it's always like phone. Money. And I find, just like food, I didn't put food on the list because some people, of course, do worship food, but I not everyone. Because we need food to survive. Just like we need in this society, we need money to survive. And I think there will always be something that we use for trade, right? Even if there was no money, and even if this world today was a holy place, most likely, you have something that I don't have, I have something that you don't have, so we have to find a way to exchange. And money has just become such a universal type thing. So I don't think money inherently is evil, but the worship of money is evil, right? And the worship of people who have money is evil. And the doing every and anything for money is evil. So money has therefore become like a god, because people will sell their soul or attempt to sell their soul. Their soul is not theirs to sell, but people will attempt to sell everything. Like throughout history, people have been doing horrible things to their mothers, to their children, to their fathers, to their grandparents, to their best friends, to their husbands, to their wives for money. So yeah, we have been treating money as an idol. Yeah, and now genders, race, and identity in general. So in my generation, I'm a millennial. I believe that's what I've experienced. We have been more so rather drawn towards staying away from labels. We never wanted to be seen as one thing and then you were in that box and then you have to stay in that box. We wanted to kind of be rather free and just be whoever we want to be on, and not be like, oh, I am in this box and I'm in that box and I'm in this box and I'm in that box and this is the box for this and this is the box for that. That just seems weird to me. And I think it has become an idol. Like someone said, mental health has become an idol. Yeah, for sure. People talk about going to therapists and mental health, like it is some kind of idol. And oftentimes you can see the development of such things, of such trends, because oftentimes these identity crises, I think they are being brought up in society and they come from a genuine place. Like, look, when we started talking about obesity, like, look, obese people have been treated a certain way in society and they don't feel good about it. Let's be a little bit aware of it, and I think the solution to that should have been, let's try to find ways to reduce obesity, let's check the food in the grocery stores, let's check the food at the restaurants, and let's see how much sugar these things, like just move towards a healthier lifestyle instead of saying, okay, fat positive, we embrace every size, health at every size, because then we start lying. That's not even true. There's not health at every size. Like that doesn't exist. And it has become an idol. And people had their idols within that group. And they would post their bodies and try to look sexy and all of these things. So it has become something that they worship, being obese. Or with the gender stuff, when people were like, oh, I identify as this, as that, non-binary, man identifies woman identifies as man, whatever. I think the smartest thing should have been like, oh, wow, all of these people with all these different identity crises. And that is interesting. It's something that the mainstream society has not been exposed to a lot. What can we do to understand them better instead of having it like that now the queers fight against the straights and and it has become like a whole identity and the allies of that identity, and they now identify also with political parties, and it has become a whole culture. So when things start getting off track, when you notice that it is being commercialized, that you see it in the media everywhere, that people are making money with it, and it's all over social media. Like when you see machinery coming up behind it, when politics gets involved, that's when it's being hijacked by the devil, in my opinion. When there's a genuine concern, a genuine, please look at this, this is great, or look at this, we're suffering over here, we need help. And then it's like, okay, let's have a day for it. Let's have, an institution for it. let's put money into this. Let's have commercials with it. Let's have brands with it. And then it's like, okay, this has nothing to do with the original concern. This is now part of a machinery. This has now been hijacked by the devil. Because we are in a godless society, people will start worshiping their gender identity. If they would worship God, then there would be no need to so strongly identify as something. Because you just know you are this, you are that, whatever it is, and then you make it clear to the world or whatever, whatever it is. And then you just live your life. But having to think about it 24/7 and forcing people into thinking the way you think, then your thought process, your thinking has become your idol. And yeah, same thing with race. It has become something is a very double-edged sword. Because I know my children will say, Mommy, it's called sword, not sword. It's okay. Chill. Because, I mean, racism is real. And I'm not going to sit here and say it's not, I live in Germany. Racism is real. I have 3 children. Racism is real. And it didn't stop. But the thing is, when the first thing I identify as is black, and I just view the world through the lens of being black, and either you're for me or against me. There's no, I have no opinion. Like, I've never had to think about this, but either you're for me or against me, and I will try to navigate around. And if you don't say the things that I want you to say, then again, you are racist. And then I have to go on the street and rally and shout and destroy stuff, throw a temper tantrum, because you don't do what I want you to do. Now, of course, I know that there is police brutality in, not just in America, also in Germany, also in other countries in Europe, towards foreigners, towards black people. So the thing is, I'm not trying to say that these things don't happen. I'm just saying the reaction towards these things oftentimes don't make no sense at all whatsoever, do not make the situation better for anyone, and especially oftentimes make the situation worse for black people. So we end up treating our race as some type of idol because we see ourselves first and foremost as black, not as a child of God, not as someone who's striving every day to be righteous, striving every day to be good, just seeing ourselves as black, because we think when someone looks at us, that's the first thing they see. And sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But the point is, walking through the world with that thought always makes you ready for defense, because you always think, I'm going to be attacked again because racism is everywhere. How healthy is that? And there is truth in you being the creator of your own reality. So even though I don't think, we are gods or anything like that, but the way that you look at life really changes the way you experience life. And that is just a fact. When you approach people with love and kindness and a smiling face, it's a higher chance for you to receive that from people as well. And the good thing about that, if you really have a full heart, a heart full of love for yourself, and first and foremost for God, for Yah, for the Most High, then it doesn't matter if they respond to you with the same love and kindness and compassion. It's a bonus. It's like, that's really nice, but you don't need it. You don't need it to survive. You don't need it to be happy. You don't need it to have a good day. It's just like, I am in a positive disposition. I love Yah. I know Yah loves me. He blesses me. He takes care of me. So I will shine that out to the world. If people live so much in their evil bubble that my love doesn't reach them and they are not able to receive it, that's unfortunate, but it's their problem, not mine, because my heart is full. It's overflowing. And it can't, like, my cup runneth over, you know. Nobody can take that away from me. But if we're always like, I'm black, you know, I'm black, you have a problem with that, huh? Then, yeah, that just makes us at odds, not just with white people, but with everyone, really. Because people who are like that, they usually also don't have, like, a lot of friends in general. They do a lot of good things for the black community or for black people around them. They're not necessarily known as good fathers, loving mothers, you know, good students or whatever. They're just angry people. So it has become an idol, right? If you lack trust in Yah and you just put trust into your race and to, you know, defeating one another or fighting against another, and somebody needs to be defeated, then yeah. And my number one on this list, as a sign that we worship, or that we're living in a godless society, in a godless world, is the worship of sex. So it kind of ties into the whole gender thing, but it's a bit more specific. I find sex has become such an idol. When you tell people to abstain from sex, there is this notion in society that you're being ridiculous or that you're even doing harm. People have, or it's being pushed in society that people have a right to have sex, like it's a need to survive, like you have to have sex. It's like water, you know? And if you deny people this urge, then you're being evil. When I disagree with that. First and foremost, sex is for reproduction. Like, that's the main reason why God made us sexual beings, so that we reproduce, that we will make more people live on this planet. Oh, it has gotten really dark. That we will make more people to live on this planet, right? That's the reason. Yeah, it's just dark. Sorry. That's the reason why there is sex. Of course, he made it in a way that it's fun, so that we have more sex, so that we get pregnant, right? If you don't have a steady partner, also, you know, of course, women only get pregnant for certain days of the month. We don't get pregnant every single day. There's a certain window where we can get pregnant. So, of course, in that other time, usually the sexual drive, the sexual desire of women is not as high, but it can be. So those times, if you're in a relationship, are more for bonding, to get closer to your partner, to get intimate. Like, true sex is not necessarily, you know, intimacy. Like, intimacy is not just sex. So get intimate in many different ways. Also with sex, but sex is really there for intimacy and reproduction. When you don't have a steady partner, and you should be able to live without having sex. So if you, for example, tell someone to abstain from sex, like you tell a young person to wait until marriage, nowadays it is really seen as something completely crazy. Like, how can you tell someone to do that? And when you meet someone who does that, they're seen as extreme. I remember in the millennial generation, you know, the Britney Spears, and so that was part of her whole thing, that she was still a virgin, and, you know, her growth from a girl into a woman, it was part of her image. And I know it was seen as idealistic, like that's how it's supposed to be, but it was still seen as a big hoo-ha, because the media would talk about her being a virgin. So Nowadays, that is not even a thing anymore. You have young actors and actresses and musicians. Nobody really talks about them being a virgin or not. I'm not saying we should talk about that more with these people, with these celebrities. I don't really care, and I don't think it should be part of their art. But it is so out of the window to do so. No one teaches their young children to abstain from sex, because the thought is there that we can't even, that's not even possible to abstain from sex. I remember when I was a teenager, and there was this magazine called Bravo, and it was a magazine targeted towards children and young adults, like teenagers. And in every week there was a new magazine coming out. Well, every week there was, at the center of the magazine, there were naked teenagers in there. Like, I don't even know if they were 18, to be honest, but they were young people. They were still teenagers, and they were completely naked in there. And it was kind of disguised as sex education. And I think the magazine was like, they first started printing the magazine in the 70s. So when the whole, hippie, free love, la la la, sex education, and they would kind of like disguise porn as and call it sex education. And the same thing was in these magazines. And until at least in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was still a magazine that would display young people completely naked. And they would also have like a picture story in there, where oftentimes also there would be sex scenes with teenagers. So sex has been targeted towards young people from a very early age, and wouldn't have been targeted towards them at an early age sometimes, if there still would be the struggle, if you just grow up and not thinking about sex so much, having to have sex, when to have sex, with whom to have sex. I know when you're young, your hormones start, bubbling around, and you don't know what to do, especially boys. Put them into sports. Have them do activities. Let them use their energy somewhere else, Or when you're an adult and you're not in a relationship, why do you have to have sex? I know we have certain desires, and we're trained to just follow those desires. But what if we train our bodies and our brains to not do that, to just abstain and have some discipline? Because discipline is power. So I don't necessarily subscribe to a lot of near or Far East or whatever to anything, from Buddhism or Hinduism. I don't subscribe to that. But, or also, ancient Kemetic philosophies. I had my time with that. But there's one thing that I still think is absolutely true, and that discipline is the highest form of freedom. I don't know if it's the highest form of freedom, but it's a very high form of freedom. It is freedom. If you are disciplined, then you see a piece of cake in front of you, and even though it smells really good, or it looks really good, or it's going to taste good, you're not going to eat it because you're disciplined. And it's not even a struggle. It's not like, I wish I could. When you're disciplined, no, I know what I'm doing this for, and I'm not going to eat this. Same thing with sex. If you're like, you're a human, you have desires, like, duh. But you're disciplined, you told yourself, nah, I'm just not going to have sex until XYZ, until I have a partner. Until I, really figure out, how I feel, who I want to be with. Until then, I'm not gonna go around and try this and try that and try this person and try that and try, maybe try this or maybe try that. Oh, nothing makes me happy. I don't know what to do. Like, maybe I just have to sleep with all of them at the same time. Like, no. That in today's society, we're not allowed to question someone's sexual orientation and practices. So if someone is into certain kinks, it's like they're worshipped, or has certain orientations, it is like a deity. It is being worshipped, and you're not allowed to not even criticize, but you're not allowed to just voice your opinion on it or to ask critical questions, because then it's seen as being negative, it's seen as being hateful, and there's no room for it in modern day society. Just chill, relax, focus on God, focus on being a better person. Like, let's focus on being better people. What about that? Let's focus on being better people. How can I be more kind? How can I be more wise? How can I help my community? How can I talk to, women and tell them how to take accountability? How can I talk to men and teach them how to be, leaders and be good men? A lot of men, even if they grew up with fathers, don't know how to be that. Women who grew up with mothers don't know how to be good partners, how to be wives. They have weird ideas in their head of being a wife because a lot of things are always centered around oppression, even though being a wife and mother can actually be the most fulfilling thing in your life. Just because our parents' generation, my parents' generation for sure, kind of came out with this whole, women need to be independent and women need to have their own, which, yeah, of course, if the man does something and the woman stands there alone at the end without any pension, without anything, it makes sense for her to have something of her own. At the same time, don't forget how to also be a good partner and a good mother and to try to keep a house together. And now we end up in a society where the mother has to work, the father has to work, and the children have to go to daycare the whole day, and you see each other in the evening for a couple hours and for a couple days during the vacation, and that's it. So all I'm trying to say is that don't make sex your idol. Sex is not that important. It is not. It is not. Sleep is more important. Eating and drinking is more important. Developing your character, your personality, your heart, being kind, being good, speaking the truth, that is more important than having sex. Having sex is like a bonus. It's like something you can do once you have a partner, once you figured out yourself, once you're grown, okay? Because once you had sex with someone, you can't undo it. You can never turn back time and say, oh, I don't want that again. That has been done. That soul tie has been done, right? And there's so many other things that can happen. Pregnancies, diseases, okay? People want to say, oh, you can do abortions, but what you going to do about a disease that you contract, right? You can't turn it back. So sex is something where you have to have a sound mind, both of you. So it takes time. One night stands shouldn't even be a thing. That's dangerous, man. So sex has become an idol. And I'm not afraid to tell people, chill with the sex. Don't have sex until you're old enough, until you're sure enough about yourself, and until you figured out your walk with God. That's it for today.